Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, November the 12th, race number 8 at Woodbine, one of two graded stakes races on the card. Let's throw up the field for the grade 2 Bessarabian, 7/8 of a mile for fillies and mares on the Tapeta surface. Our coverage is presented by DRF Bets. Please scan the QR code for race of the day access on mobile. Mike, the morning line favorite, the number 1, Artie's Princess. She won this race in 2020. She had a very abbreviated campaign last year. Saffie Joseph's got her on the right track, and she pulled off a new trick last time out, coming from off the pace in the grade 2 Masters at Presque Isle.
Yeah, I thought she looked good winning that race. Not only did she do it a different way, Dan, it was a nice bounce back effort because her most recent start up here at Woodbine, 2 back in the Hendry, boy, that was a real stinker that she ran that day. It was nice to see her bounce back.
The way she ran last time out makes this Timeform US pace projector a little bit intriguing because based on some of her prior races, if Artie's Princess wants the lead, she is certainly fast enough to get it. Now, if these connections are enamored with this newfound running style, maybe they'll take her back a little bit. Lorena has kind of showed some speed, although at times they don't want the lead. I think Loyalty is going to be aggressive from the outside.
Yeah, Loyalty is fast enough to get there. She's another one that they don't tend to get too aggressive with early in her races, but she has speed. I'd be surprised, Dan, if they didn't use Artie's Princess's speed in this race. I know that they took her back last time and it worked, but yeah, I think you have to look at this race, see yourself as the morning line favorite, and just know that there's not a ton of pace in here. You have to use yours.
Artie's Princess, of course, won at Presque Isle last time out. She's back to her favorite course. She is 6'4" over the Tapeta at Woodbine. Talking a little bit more about her, she beat a very good field in that Presque Isle Downs Masters. 3 next out winners, most notably Caravel, who was 4th and came back to win the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint with a 92 buyer. In many ways, she's the horse to beat. She has many fast races.
Yeah, I mean, overall, her form is really good. Again, she was, very disappointing 2 starts back. I'm not sure what happened that day, but that was not a good performance. But she bounced back last time. It was a race. I think it's fair to point out, then, that it was a race that had a wicked fast pace. So
yeah,
she really had no choice but to take back in that race and then try to make a run. And when all was said and done, the trip really worked out for Jose Ortiz in that spot. I mean, never had a straw in her path, was able to move up while saving ground, and just came immediately clear at the top of the stretch. She still ran the race that she ran. It was a very good performance. In a lot of ways, she's the horse to beat in here. We'll see what kind of price she goes off at.
Trainer Roger Atfield is excellent off of layoffs, and he's going to test the number 2, Sweet Enough. This is going to be her first start since the Keeneland Spring Meet. That was her first race off a layoff, her first race in North America. And not only did she catch a slow-paced race on turf, she caught 3 next out winners. The runner-up coming back to win the Mint Julep, graded at Churchill with a 97 buyer. I think she's a little bit better on turf, and while you could argue it's a sign of confidence that they're here, I wonder how many 3 life allowances they run for fillies and mares up at Woodbine.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't really know what to do with her. She has some decent turf form from overseas, but I mean, obviously something went wrong in the stateside debut. But I don't really know what to say about that race, Dan. She did absolutely no running in there. The pace was slow. She got up close to it. She was a little bit rank early in the race. Didn't really want to settle, but after that, always in a good spot. Totally empty in that race. That was not a good performance.
Hazelbrook, the number 3, is in phenomenal form. She is less than a length away from bringing a 5-race win streak into the 2022 Bessarabian. Here's her most recent start. She's odds on the Ontario Fashion, going 3/4 of a mile. She got a really good trip. She tracked the pace in the pocket. The rail opens up, and she shoots on through, and she does what she has to do.
Yeah, a great trip in this race. It works out perfectly for her, and she wins. She's not going to get away from this field, but once she took over, there was never a point where it looked like, she wasn't going to win the race. I don't know, Dad. I don't really want to knock her because her form is obviously very good. I've gone back and watched, every one of her last 5 starts, and for whatever reason, I'm just not really blown away by her. She does get good trips in her races, though. It feels like she can do it either way, up close or from a little bit further back. Those are all positives. I didn't really want her as one of the favorites.
The number 4, Lorena, is an excellent Ontario bred. She's won 7 of 13 starts. It seems when they step her up to face the big girls, so to speak, in open company, she's a little bit lacking. Didn't think she had the best trip last time out in the Eternal Search, going 2 turns on turf. She made the lead in this race, and now she's last, turning into the stretch, and then she's going to get to the outside, and she's going to run on again. Maybe they should have stayed a little bit more forwardly placed with her.
Yeah, maybe they should have. She's a little unlucky here. It's hard to say what was going to happen if she got a better trip, but certainly she's running on to the wire here, and it feels like a bit of an unlucky loss for her. I don't know what that means when you're talking about this race, though, Dan. I guess I just don't really like her overall synthetic form that much. She has that stakes win from last November, Rowdy, where she just walked as a 1-5 favorite, the softest trip you could ever imagine to win that day. Her races since then don't do a lot for me.
Beyond My Budget is the number 5. She was the filly we saw finishing second to Hazelbrook in that Ontario fashion. While Hazelbrook saved every inch of ground, Beyond My Budget had to come to the outside. It was one of her better performances. She seems adaptable to any kind of pace scenario. I do think she needs to take a slight step forward.
Yeah, me too. And I suppose maybe that's, one of the reasons that I just couldn't really get behind Hazelbrook too much. Dan, I didn't really view this horse as a serious contender in here, even though she's going to be a fair price. She's run against Hazelbrook twice recently and made it pretty close with that horse. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if she ran well again here. I just didn't want to take her on top.
We generally like horses cutting back to this 7/8 of a mile distance, and the 6-hour flash drive will do so after several route efforts. We're going to watch the Ontario Matron last time out. This is a mile and a 16th race, and she was in the pocket in the inside early, and they just dropped the anchor right on her head when the leader, tried to slow the pace down in her face. She eventually got to the outside. She makes the lead here as the favorite. Were you disappointed she coughed up this late lead?
Yeah, this isn't a race that she's probably supposed to lose. I will point out that the winner, even though she's a fairly big price in this race, that winner brought pretty good form into that race. Though that's not as disappointing a loss as it may appear. But we've seen this from our flash drive before, Dan. It's usually on turf. But there are several turf races in her past where she got great trips, made the lead in the stretch, and did not seal the deal. That was the case again last time. I guess that's something to concern yourself with a little bit. More than anything, I just like her cutting back. First of all, I like this surface for her also. She won her first 2 starts on this surface as a 3-year-old, really impressively. It's been all turf since then. But I like her going shorter. I like her tactical speed. And I feel like she's one of the horses here who could take one more step forward.
The last time she sprinted was during the spring of 2021. She won that race. She does have the tactical speed to take advantage of any kind of trip scenario, and her company lines speak for themselves. They haven't ducked anyone with our flash drive. Awesome Treat is next. Big step up in class. She's eligible for a non-2 life after this maiden victory. First start off the layoff. First start back on the Tapeta surface going 7/8. She went to the lead. She got a very easy trip up front, and something tells me the field she beat wasn't the best.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's probably true. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that she took a pretty significant step forward in this race. Her first 2 starts up here at Woodbine on the synthetic last November, she ran fine in those races, but she obviously took a big step forward there back in the Steve Attard barn. We'll see what she can do.
Curious to pick apart the number 8 Loyalty's last race for you. She is 4 for 4 lifetime on the synthetic. Let's watch this race, the Duchess, restricted for 3-year-old fillies. Now, she made the lead in here, a pressured pace. She went quick the second quarter to get to this lead, but she's not exactly finishing up very well. And you can argue that the runner-up, Super Hoity Toity, who was stopped badly at the quarter pole, might have gotten her with a clean trip.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. This filly, maybe the 7 furlongs just wasn't what she wanted. I'll also say, Dan, I don't know if I necessarily care for the ride that she got early in the race, because it looked like if Contreras wanted to, he could have just sent her up to the lead and cleared off on that field. And for some reason, he just sort of sat there with her in hand and let horses range up to her outside for a while before he finally took over. I don't care for guys who ride speed horses that way. That's not how they've handled her in the past. I do like the fact that 2 starts back at Presque Isle, she was able to sit a little bit. She won that race very easily, though. I don't know. I think this horse is pretty good.
And it's worth noting that 3 of the 4 horses she faced in that last race have already come back to win. The 9 is All Worthy. This one also going out for Saffie Joseph. She finished 3rd in the Presque Isle Masters behind her stablemate Artie's Princess. She was another one that might have taken advantage of that fast pace, but she was a little bit closer to it than Artie's Princess. She's a solid, sharp horse. She's done good work at around 6.5 and 7 in the past. Still want to know if she's as good on synth as she is on dirt.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, she ran fine last time. And I think you could argue, I guess, that she was sort of last away from the gate in there. And maybe you want to argue that that compromised her a little bit. But all in all, I thought the trip really worked out for her. And she did her best with it. And she was 3rd best.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRF video franchises. Top pick time for Saturday's race of the day. It's the Bessarabian. Our flash drive gets the cutback Mike thinks she needs, and she certainly fits from a class and form standpoint.
Yeah, I think those things are all true. I'm going to give her one chance here, cutting back, Dan. This wasn't a race where I loved anybody. I think your horse Loyalty is very interesting. I don't know if that morning line, I don't know if you're going to get that price. That's the only reason I didn't put her on top, but I think she's a dangerous horse.
I liked Loyalty's race 2 starts back a little bit more than I liked her last start, but she is so lightly raced. She's got a ton of upside, and she already has very competitive buyers. And the tactical speed Mike talked about could come into play. She should be right there when they turn into the stretch. 6813 for Mike, 8136 for me. Same superfecta, different order in the Bessarabian, your race of the day for Saturday, presented by DRF Bets.